This episode is brought to you by Fresh Clean Tees. It's like a shave club, but they offer the most awesome t-shirts you'll ever wear. Seriously, they look amazing and feel even better. To save 20% off your first shipment, go to freshcleantees.com and enter the coupon code GFQ20 at checkout. That's GFQ20.
What's up, hey?
Hey, buddy, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian, and of course, I'm joined by Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
I don't know. I'm pretty good.
Ooh, horrible day.
Do we have more contrast today?
You look fine.
A little less white.
Yeah, a little less blown out. Yeah, you look good. You're not as jaundicey as the previous week.
Yep.
This is the show, guys. If you're tuning in for the first time, Paul and I talk about technology. The concept is two guys at a bar talking about computers and stuff. Pretty much how it works here. Paul, I actually had a lot of questions for you this week. But before I do that, I want to wish you a happy Father's Day.
Oh, jeez. Well, happy Father's Day to you as well. It's probably a little more meaningful to you.
It was my first Father's Day, and Jess gave me a beautiful gift. She framed... we went to the Mets game last week, and she framed couple pictures that she took at the game of me and Taylor, and then the ticket and the LIRR ticket, and got it matted like with the Mets color. Mm-hmm. And she wrote this beautiful card, and I started crying.
Really?
But I cry at everything.
Sure.
I mean, literally, I watch Grey's Anatomy and I'll cry.
There were two problems with that sentence, but
I get very emotional very quick.
Sure.
Yeah, so it was a very, very nice gift that she got me.
Now Father's Day is not a big thing around here. My role is ceremonial. You know, my wife does all of the hard lifting in this family, so
yeah, it's Father's Day for her.
It should be like a second Mother's Day for her.
What did you guys do? Anything? Any breakfast?
Oh no, no, we didn't.
Well, you had a big week because Mark graduated.
Yeah. There's much bigger things going on for us this month. His graduation party is tomorrow, by the way.
Yes, it is. I'm not able to make it, sadly.
That would have been awesome.
I know. We tried to move everything around, and it did not work. It's been a hectic couple of weeks here.
Yeah. And by the way, next week, of course, we're doing that Windows Weekly show in New York.
Yes.
I'm actually going to stay overnight that night.
Oh, good.
So, I mean, I don't think that's going to open up too many possibilities, but other than me just staying up later, you know.
Yeah, so let's plug that right now, because I know a lot of our viewers are also Windows Weekly viewers. If you're not, I have no idea how you're watching this and why. You're probably watching both shows, but I'm helping produce Windows Weekly. I guess I'm the New York producer, and then we're going to send it off to Petaluma. And I got to talk to Alex actually today about how we're going to do this. But we're going to be producing Windows Weekly live from the Microsoft store on 5th Avenue in Manhattan in New York City. And we're going to have a meetup at Rattle and Hum West. Now,
not the original Rattle and Hum that we always go to on 33rd.
Yes, this is on 39th.
The other Rattle and Hum.
This is on 39th.
I think that is correct. I've never actually been to the other one.
So I've never gone to that one either, but I heard it's a little bit nicer.
I find that hard to believe, but okay.
So if you're in the New York area, definitely come by, hang out with us. We're going to be recording it live. So do you guys does Mary Jo have to tell Microsoft how many people are coming?
I don't think so.
Okay. So show up. We're going to be doing it from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Then
and if you can't,
to
show up to the meetup, which should be even better.
Yeah. Show up to the meetup. It should be a lot of fun. I've been actually asked by a bunch of people, like local people here, if they can meet Paul Thurrott.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want to?
I'm going to tell you something. You know how
exciting.
You just went and got this thing framed, the gift. So she told me that she goes to the store and the guy at the counter says, "Oh my God, it's so nice to meet you. Tell your husband I'm a big fan of Paul Thurrott."
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So hi to thank you for that compliment. No, he said I love the show. I've been watching it for years. He came from Turkey a couple of years ago, and my question was, well, did he see me on the Turkish Times?
Yep.
Because when they put me, the
As
Middle
Paul Thurrott,
Eastern
yeah.
friendly version of Paul
Maybe he
Thurrott.
is in fact your fan, and that's where he found out about me.
That's quite possible what it is. So he actually found it. So it's amazing. The reach
That's
of the
funny.
show is grown, and it's awesome. But
Sure.
so if you're in New York, come by. If you're not in New York, come to New York and hang out with us. Simple. It'll be a lot of fun. I wanted to get that out of the way before I forget. So there's a lot to talk about, Paul. We have a lot to talk about today. I actually have a lot of questions for you, kind of stemming from last week about the Xbox and
A little bit. Yeah, lots of confusion.
a lot of confusion. A lot of actually more confusion than I thought there would be, and I didn't get it at first, and then I finally started understanding why there's so much confusion.
Okay.
So I kind of want to address that. But before we do that, I want to thank a new sponsor to the GFQ Network, new friends of ours, and that's, if I could do this, here we go. That's Fresh Clean Tees, guys. Paul Thurrott is a t-shirt guy. I'm a t-shirt guy. Paul, you're not walking around town with a suit and tie. No, t-shirts it is. Yeah, I'm a big t-shirt guy. And so I got approached by this company, and they said, hey, listen, we want to advertise with you. And I looked at the concept, and I said, this is actually awesome, and this is something I would use, and that's the whole point on why, I have certain ads. I generally pick ads that I would use. So what you're asking, what is Fresh Clean Tees? They're not washing your shirts. What they're doing is, it's like a shave club where every month they send you the product, the t-shirts, a t-shirt subscription service, which is great. You could decide if you want to do a monthly, bi-monthly. You could do a one-off. You could do, I think, quarterly also. And you pick 3 shirts or 4. You could do more. Like they have a one-off that's 5 shirts. You could do 3 shirts, and they send it to you every month. So you pick the color, you pick the design, you tell them kind of what you're into, V-necks, crew necks, and they mail you these shirts. This is actually one of the shirts that I'm wearing right now, and I'm very picky with this stuff, and I was shocked how good the t-shirt is. You could go there. It's freshcleantees.com, and if you go there and off your first shipment, you get 20% off if you use our coupon code GFQ20 at checkout. That's GFQ20. We spoke about this on Mad Men earlier, and people actually were like, wow, this is actually really cool. I've never heard of this, and it's really cool. These subscription services are really happening, and what a great way to get, the stuff that you like. It's premium cotton, Paul. So it's a very premium level of cotton. The t-shirts feel absolutely great, and if you're like me, that's all I wear. Pretty much all I wear is black or blue t-shirts, and that's all I wear. That's my entire closet. Why not check it out? Freshcleantees.com. Use the coupon code GFQ20 at checkout. That's GFQ20. Let them know we sent you. They're very, very nice people. And their website, actually, let me pull this up. Let me show you how easy this is, if I could do this here. Boom, there it is. So very simple. You tell them how often you want it. You tell them what kind of style you want, and it shows up at your door. Very, very cool. Freshcleantees.com. I want to thank them for supporting the show, for, of course, supporting the GFQ Network and What the Tech. That's a cool idea, right, Paul?
Yeah.
Why not? Make everything automated. That's the way to do it now.
It's what computers are for.
Yeah. Never have to think about it.
Yep.
Never. Everybody has holes in their shirts. You never have to think about this. It just shows up at your door. Look, brand new shirts. You look like $1 million. So, Paul, I don't know where to begin with this. So there was a post about the whole Xbox thing, and people are getting a little confused on what the strategy is now, and where Xbox is headed, and who they're targeting. Very interesting stuff. So I know that you are going to be discussing this on Thurrott.com in the coming days.
Yeah,
so
I've been struggling to kind of write this because it's, to me, this seems really obvious that what they're doing is smart. It makes sense, but not everyone thinks that, and so you read these articles by analysts who are worried that what Microsoft's doing is a huge mistake, and you kind of read through it and you're like, I don't agree with any of this.
So where do you want to begin? Is the confusion? Well, do you think a lot of the confusion has to do with Project Scorpio?
Look, I think it's funny because this is actually a living, breathing example of something you and I have talked about a lot, which is this notion that in the computer industry, in personal technology, where things change all the time, nonetheless, for some reason, people get wrapped up in the tradition of doing things a certain way. And if you step back from that and think about it, in some cases, you'll realize There are more efficient ways to do things. There are better ways to do things. But, we just kind of do things the same. And one of the things I struggle with in my own, job, I guess, just reviewing things and whatnot, is trying to change things up,
Yeah, absolutely.
I go back and retest things. If I choose a music service, for example, I will still go back and look at the competition when they release new features or whatever. Same thing with web browsers. Same thing with everything,
But would you do that? I mean, you do that because you're a journalist and you kind of have to know what's changing and what you're doing.
That's my excuse.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the truth is I probably would.
You probably
well,
still
who knows what I do? I can't really say. I mean, I like this stuff and I'm interested in it, but I've always had an interest in doing things, the most efficient way possible, doing things the best way possible, whatever it is.
Sorry, everybody. We had a little glitch here with the Skype machine, but Paul's back. So, Paul, please continue.
Yes. So I think where I was at, I think when it went south was somewhere along the lines of, the video game industry has basically worked the same way for 20 years-ish. A console comes out, it's a known hardware configuration that's in the market for about 8 years, plus or minus. And then toward the end of that cycle, the console maker will come out with a new machine. And those new machines are almost always completely incompatible with the previous one, especially in the modern era here, although, that's not consistent.
Yeah.
Things move more quickly than that, Even when you think about something like Windows. Like Windows historically was updated every 3 years. People historically would buy a new computer every 4 or 5 years, although that's been stretched out recently. Maybe just even 6 or 7 years these days, which is part of the problem that the PC industry is having. People replace their cell phones every 2 years, every 1 year almost, right? We're we're kind of getting to that point. So as these life cycles kind of change, Microsoft and Sony both have been talking about and now implementing a change to the console life cycle. And I think we talked about this. I can't remember exactly where I've said different things, or I've certainly written about this. But the basic theory is you don't. In other words, we're not going to have a 4-year console life cycle. Like a lot of people don't want to necessarily spend the couple $100 it is for the device, $60 a piece for games, and then have that thing be out of the market in 4 years. It doesn't make sense. That's part of the reason why there was an 8-year product life cycle. But what if we could have midstream replacements or upgrades and basically have a tiered system where there's a higher end version of the console? They all share the same game library, right? There's not going to be some instance where there's only a game out there that only works on the really expensive one, and you as a buyer of the original console or the cheaper console are getting screwed, So it's a good system. Those games can scale. That system already works on PCs with games. We know that. If you run any PC game, you can typically go in and choose from, not 320 by 240, but some really low res all the way up to whatever your computer supports. And there are different effects you can enable or disable or otherwise configure as well.
So I have a question for you.
And so, yes.
From the time, you brought up an interesting thing. You said the lifespan of these computers, normally was 3 to 4 years, and now it's 7 to 8 years. So what exactly has changed that, it's pretty much doubled in longevity
on the PC side?
On the PC side, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because, phones and PCs are going in like these different directions. Why is that? For one thing, PCs are pretty mature at this point, right? There's not a lot of major innovation going on in the PC space. When we think about hardware devices that are changing rapidly these days, and even that's slowing down, it's phones, right? I mean, phones very much so, tablets not so much so, PCs really not almost at all. But the other thing is usage patterns, right? 10 years ago, 20 years ago, certainly, when you think about personal computing, all of the activities you did were on a PC. Keyboard and a mouse and a screen. That's how you interacted with the world. If Facebook existed 20 years ago, you would have done it on a PC.
Yeah.
If Google Maps existed 20 years ago, you would have done it on a PC. And these days, a lot of the ways that we interact with personal technology occur on mobile devices, mostly phones, smaller screens, touch, location aware, right? It's really changed the way that we do things. And so as the number of things that we do on a PC drop off, it becomes more like a traditional workstation. I think of it as a productivity machine for the most part, a place where you go when you have to write longer pieces of work or work on a presentation or do some kind of complicated thing, develop software, CAD/CAM engineering software, whatever. High-end gaming actually also falls into this category. These things all combine, and also I'd just say PCs, part of them being mature is that the hardware, although my own personal experience actually contradicts this statement, but
mine too.
So maybe I shouldn't even say it. But
no, I agree
PCs
with you.
Overall, PCs are a lot more reliable and last a lot longer than they used to. So they're just not on the quicker recycle that they used to be on. And so it's a natural thing. But consoles are think about like a video game console is an entertainment device. It's competing with all kinds of things. It's competing with the little games you can play on phones because you can do those things in your off times. The console is in many ways an old-fashioned thing because you have to be sitting in a particular place in your house on a particular screen. No one else can be using it for the most part. I mean, obviously you can share, you can have multiple controllers and all that, but it's a single-use experience. It's kind of it's a throwback to the way computing used to be, right? It's not a shared thing.
It's old school,
for the most part.
It's very old school.
But it has to compete with these things that are on these new models. So in the same way that Windows as a legacy desktop operating system for PCs needs to compete with the capabilities and expectations that we get from mobile operating systems like iOS or Android, the Xbox needs to compete with these new ways of doing entertainment things.
Yeah.
Watching Netflix on your phone, playing a game on your phone, that kind of stuff.
Do you think it's getting harder?
Do
you think it's getting harder for the Xbox to be competitive because things are so? I mean, the Roku's like $68, and an Apple TV is like $100, and so you're right. You're competing with that, and then in the gaming. I mean, you're right. You're literally they are competing with a $2.99 game on a tablet.
Yeah, it's weird. I think there's this giant market over on one side that is a bunch of small little things. It's Angry Birds on a phone. It's a Roku device. It's Chromecast. It's ebooks, and it's whatever Audible and all the little things. It's a bunch of stuff. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum is PC gaming, which is high-end experiences, expensive, complicated. It's not for everyone. And the console is weird because it's kind of in the middle. Something like the Xbox 360 and the PS3. Those things both sold 80 million units. And that sounds like a lot of units, but the truth is, even in a down age, PC market, they sell 80 million units in one quarter. It took those consoles 8 years to sell that many units. And so you have to so how do you position that thing? In other words, we've talked about the two ways they could expand Xbox into the other two sides of the spectrum. On the one end, they could come up with the low-end streamers, which they did not announce right at E3. Remember, we talked about that. That would be one way to expand the Xbox brand.
Which
the
we're
Xbox
still anticipating
lineup.
that.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's hybrid solutions for now where you can blast the screen of an Xbox to a Windows PC so you can enjoy it in a different location, partially solving that one problem I brought up earlier. You can do things in the reverse as well. If you walk into a room with your phone, you should be able to blast the screen of your phone up onto the Xbox and access the content from your phone on your TV or whatever. And so there's little, kind of hybrid solutions. But now what we see with Microsoft doing is addressing the other end of the spectrum, right? In other words, it's never going to be a PC. It can't be that complicated. It can't be that granular, but offer a higher end experience that will cost more, but will be more lucrative. And actually, the parallel to this is kind of interesting because this is what's working for PC makers as well. When you talk to companies like HP in particular, but Lenovo and Dell as well, what they'll tell you is that, the PC market's down overall, but there are segments of the PC market that are growing. And those segments are premium computers, high-end computers like Surface, and gaming, right? Which is another way of saying just a premium high-end market. And so why can't the video game console market take advantage of those same trends? People will pay a little bit more to get a higher quality device. Some people can't. They can take the lower cost device. They can all play the same games. It kind of gets rid of the problem of upgrading to a new console. Like when you go from the PS2 to the PS3, or when you go from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, or whatever generational jump you want to talk about, usually, not always, but usually, there's an incompatibility issue with previous generation software. And these companies have tried to solve those problems in various ways. We know there's backwards compatibility on both PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah, I mean, the
okay,
Xbox,
cute, but it doesn't solve the whole problem.
The Xbox, I mean, it's more of a PC platform, obviously, the way that they're headed. But Do you? Let me ask you this. And I saw this argument this week. Do you think it would be more? It would be beneficial for Microsoft to slowly phase out the Xbox as a piece of hardware, but sell it based on being a service,
Um,
where
only
they'll
when
still sell the
yeah,
hardware, where it's just
right.
because they're not making money on the hardware.
So they're sort of doing that, right? I mean, Microsoft also in the same. It's funny because it's really not. It doesn't speak directly to the high end of the market, but with the Universal Windows platform and games that you can write that will work on both Xbox One and Windows 10 PCs and tablets and phones too, by the way, um, they have this coming solution that kind of addresses what you're talking about. Um, a lot of those games are not going to be high end games with 4K
Yeah.
graphics. Some of them are just going to be little homegrown whatever games, and that's fine. I mean, I think the fact that you can support the whole range of game types is really important. But I think what we're seeing here is the same thing that we see with Windows 10 or with Mac OS, that the companies that make these systems have to address the changes that are occurring around them.
Yeah.
Their users have expectations because they use these other devices now, and they need to apply those learnings, for lack of a better term, to these existing platforms, these legacy platforms. Over time, could you argue that Windows 10 slash the PC market goes away or gets smaller over time? Do video game consoles over time go away? Maybe, but before we get to that future that may or may not happen, what happens now is we're pushing
Yeah.
these existing markets into these new areas. And so for Xbox One specifically, and by the way, Sony's doing exactly the same thing. They just haven't really announced
Said
the
anything,
details
yeah.
as well. I mean, they've said some things, but not to the degree that Microsoft has.
And I'm curious as to why they
Um,
haven't. They've held back on this.
I think you think about, you're going into E3, and E3 is the biggest video game show of the year. It's the biggest deal for these companies. And you have a decision to make. You're not going to sell the console this year. The new, the big
Yeah.
honking 4K VR console. If you announce it now, do you run the risk of screwing up sales because no one's
very
going to buy
interesting.
the existing device?
Yeah.
Or do you announce it now because you want to be transparent and give people the information they need to make the right buying decisions? And so Sony and Microsoft chose different paths. Sony actually said before E3, we're not going to announce a new console. But see, Microsoft had something else to announce, and I think that's why why what they did made sense. So Microsoft came into E3 and they said, okay, here's the deal. Xbox One's been in the market for 3 years. It's time to release a cost-reduced version of it. I haven't seen one in person yet. I'm hoping we know it's smaller and lighter and all that
Yeah.
stuff, but we hope it's quieter. It absolutely, when we do teardowns of these things, we're going to discover that it's a smaller motherboard with less chips on it, that these chips are cheaper to produce because that amount of time's gone by. It offers a minor performance bump necessary to do, just because it does 4K video playback. They had to do a little bit of a bump, but from a gaming perspective, it should be
Yeah.
performance identical to the existing Xbox One. This is now this part of the story, and by the way, and with HDR gaming, if you have an HDR TV set. So far, what I've described, this Xbox One S,
Can I
is
pull back
exactly-
for a second? The HDR
Yeah.
gaming. What TVs are going to allow this? Like currently, would my TV allow HDR gaming?
no, you need an HDR capable TV set.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's okay. The whole
Yeah, but again, but see this, but this too. It's funny. This kind of thing is the stuff Microsoft used to do with Windows. In other words, they do things that benefit everybody. So, for example, you buy an Xbox One, it's going to play all the Xbox One games. There's no weird compatibility gaps. There's not some subset of games that doesn't work. It just works. It's just a new Xbox One. But some new games will look better if you have an HDR compatible TV set. So maybe you buy a new TV.
That's very interesting.
And that benefits the industry, right? I mean, we're selling more devices. That helps everybody. It's great. If you don't, it's still great. It works fine. Next year, Microsoft's going to sell a version of the console that can do VR gaming, and it can do 4K gaming. It won't. Not every game will be 4K. There's been those weird arguments about that, but it's literally being designed to support 4K resolutions, real time in gaming. So
I wonder what this does to the developers. How this is going to change since the Scorpio is going to be faster and better, and how is
Well,
this going to change the gaming industry? Because the developers for these games, because they like to go, they like to invest time in a game, and they'll
sure.
spend 2-3 years on some games. So
Well, and by the way, also you spend years learning the intricacies of a particular console,
yeah,
and over time,
yeah.
those games only get better and
Yeah,
better.
that's
So,
that's why Call of Duty on the Xbox 360 from the beginning of the console to the end of the console looked
yeah,
way better.
even though the hardware didn't change at
Yeah,
all, yeah, or didn't the capabilities of the hardware didn't really change
yeah,
at all. So this model is the thing we've had, like I said, in the PC gaming world forever, but it's not as complex. And so it's what it really is the universal Windows platform in action. Because when you write an app to the universal Windows platform, optionally, you don't have to do it, but let's just say you do it, you can, using Microsoft's tools, create an application that looks great on a phone. If you run it on a tablet, it scales to that display. The layout changes. It looks better. It's the same exact code. And you run it on a PC. It could run in a window. It could run on a full screen or whatever. It looks great on a 27-inch screen too. And that we're taking that approach and just bringing it to games. And so you automatically get the benefits as you move up the chain. They'll all work on the original Xbox One. If you have an Xbox One S, you can take advantage of HDR gaming. If you have the other one, you could take advantage of 4K gaming. It's the same exact game.
See, the argument
Same
that
game.
I have, something. It's not an argument, but something that I would really like to see from Microsoft is, listen, this is Windows 10. Windows is Windows, right? And I know that it's different. It's Windows, but it's different on the Xbox, and it's not the seamless switch over if you were to go to Windows. But I think almost all my brother's friends, they don't have an Xbox in a living room or by a TV. They have a monitor on a desk, and they have their Xbox there and their games, and they play there. Why? I mean, what an incentive it would be to sell this Xbox and also have Windows on there, where you could switch over and use Windows if you need to.
Well,
I mean, you want to talk
yeah,
about not selling way more than 80 million units. That's a great way to do it.
well, okay. So I don't think Microsoft's strength is selling hardware units. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I guess the other way to think about it would be they have these initiatives in place as well for Windows 10 integration. And so there are certain games where you hop in the game and you could be playing against people on Windows PCs.
Yeah.
But they also have certain games where you buy the game and you just get it on both on both platforms. So, and you get the kind of I'm going to get the terms wrong, but you get the game continuation functionality. So, for example, this could be completely wrong, but let's just say Gears of War, single player, you're playing it on the console. Whoops, time to go to work. Hop on the train or the bus or whatever you take to work, pop out your tablet with a game controller, pick up right where you left off, play it for the 20 minutes you're on the bus or whatever, and then you can pick it up again at night on the console again when you get home. I mean, they have that kind of stuff. And I think that's how you expand Xbox as a platform to a wider range of devices, right? Rather than calling things Xbox, right? It doesn't, or making an Xbox into a PC.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you talk about the wars, right? The PC, you have the PC wars, but now you have this console war that's still happening. Just like an idea on how they could really, as an incentive to jump over to Xbox. How do you sell? I mean,
Well, I think these are the incentives.
Yeah.
In other words, you have all this cross
collaboration, between platforms.
So a lot of people, or some people, I should say, I think Microsoft's making a huge mistake here. That by announcing the fact that next year they're going to have another console, people won't buy them. And so I have so many thoughts about this. I'm not going to be able to blurt them all out, and I'm going to forget some. But let me just get through a couple real quick. Because first of all, when you buy an iPhone, if you buy an iPhone 7 this year or whatever they call it, they're going to release an iPhone 7S next year, and they're going to release an iPhone 8 the year after that. And guess what? That doesn't stop you from buying anything.
It doesn't.
The other thing is, I think that giving people the information they need to make good purchase decisions is smart. You've got about 20 million people that have bought Xbox One so far. Now they have the information they need on where they're going to go next. They could stay exactly where they are, and this thing will work with new games for at least 8 years. There'll be no problems. They could spend $300 and get 4K video playback capability, a prettier, smaller, hopefully quieter console, HDR gaming, get an Xbox One S. Or they could wait until 2017, a full 4 years, halfway through the life cycle, and spend, we don't know, because we're going to learn more next year, on a machine that can do VR, on a machine that can do 4K gaming. It doesn't require you to throw away your software library. That's what's
That's
so
what matters.
beautiful
Yeah.
about it.
It's not
That's
starting
what's
over.
beautiful
Yeah.
about it. If you think about your investment in gaming on a console over the course of 8 years, if you bought in on day one or the Xbox One, it would have cost you $500 to get that console, $60 a game. There are cheaper games, obviously, online, and smaller games are cheaper and all that. But you could easily spend several $100s, thousands of dollars on games over the lifetime of that console. That console that you bought is not the most expensive part of it. And the ability to upgrade that box, that brick, and get additional capabilities. In other words, like let's say your Xbox One broke and it was 4 years in and you went to go get it fixed. And they said, you know what? It's going to cost $400 to fix this thing, blah, blah, blah. You'd be better off getting a new console.
Yeah.
You'd get a new console. And if that console did nothing new, if it was just exactly the same as the one you already had, that would be fine. And I did that plenty of times with the Xbox 360, by the way. I just wanted to keep playing the games. But that's not what's going to happen here. Because if this console breaks and you have to buy a new one, you're going to get a better console.
Yeah, you don't go buy the same one.
How could anyone complain about this?
So also the pricing is great.
Yes.
What's curious is that, obviously it's really early for Scorpio, but there's no indication on what the pricing will be.
Right.
It's going to be a lot. It's going to be more. We just have no idea.
Expensive.
Yeah. I mean,
there are people now who are saying, oh, there's no way this thing is going to be able to do VR at high resolution. There's no way it's going to be able to do 4K gaming. It's like, guys, I don't know if no one is paying attention to how fast hardware evolves, but it absolutely will be able to do all of those things. I'm not saying we'll do it 100% of the time. It's just like games today, they scale, and some games to maintain higher frame rates will have lower resolutions, just like they always have. No big deal.
Are they saying because the based on current hardware and
yeah, I mean, how much does it cost to buy to put together a computer that can run at 4K resolutions, right?
$1,200,
$1,500.
Yeah, $1,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how much is that computer going to cost next fall? $700, $900.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Microsoft can do that.
So, do you think it'll be up there as far as pricing goes? We're not looking at a $499 console. We're looking at more of a $600, $700 console.
Well, yeah, $600 I hope is the top end of that. So only because I think that again, the spectrum, right? Lots of small things over here, lots of really expensive, complex things over here. They still have to hit in the middle. I don't, $500 was stretching it on the Xbox One when it first shipped. $300 is great. How much would you spend on the honking big awesome one? I mean, $600 has got to be the top.
Yeah,
it's got to be the top.
Unless they go up higher, $699. That
we'll
I think that would be a gut spot.
Obviously, this is something I'm sure they have internal numbers based on component costs, and they sort of know where the market's going.
Yeah,
but
they'll just eat they'll take a loss.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, by the way, so that's the other thing. They're going to take a loss no matter what the price is. I think that's the point. So
it just depends how big of a loss. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll come in at some point, and people will complain. Whatever it is, and sorry guys, but they're losing money on that thing because that's how you do it in the beginning, and then cost reduced version comes out, and that's what they're going to try.
Each in our chat room says, if it has Windows Media Center, I'll pay $1,000. I think many people would actually, which is crazy.
Yeah,
all 50 of you would definitely pay the $1,000.
Yeah,
and all 50 of them are fans of the show. It's actually interesting that the strategy for this company has shifted all across the board. If you look at everything that they are doing, it's a very different Microsoft from the Ballmer years and the Gates years.
Yeah, but the whole market's changed, right?
The whole market has changed, yeah.
That's what, people, it's funny. I get a lot of criticism these days when people think I'm negative or down on Microsoft or whatever. And it's like, guys, nothing could be further than the truth. This company's ability to move with the changes that are occurring is astonishing and is unprecedented, is historical in many ways.
Yeah.
What I'm down on is that the things that I happen to care about the most, which is personal technology, it's devices, PCs, and the consumer services, the Netflixes, the Google Play Musics of the world, that kind of stuff. Microsoft is leaving that stuff behind because they've never competed properly in those markets. They don't really understand those markets. They don't do a good job in those markets. Microsoft does really well in productivity. They do really well with enterprises and with business computing. They're doing a killer job in the cloud. And that stuff is all awesome. Microsoft has a very secure future. But, for me personally, it's like, well, I like phones and PCs and games and,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, you
kind of
like all of it. I wanted to touch on this because I saw you posted this on Thurrott.com, which I want to talk about the news for Thurrott.com. Big stuff happening for Thurrott.com. I want to talk about that. But Windows 10 device stats. There are some stats that have been released, and I wanted to go through that with you.
Okay.
If you have it open. The most popular Windows phone on the market is the Lumia 535.
Well, we should say, running Windows 10.
Running Windows 10. Is the Lumia 535.
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
Honestly, none of this news is good for fans of Windows 10.
First of all, what is
Mobile
other?
or Windows
What
phone.
would other be?
What's that?
I'm looking at this chart. It says 24% other.
Let me look at it.
Running Windows 10 on mobile. You guys can follow along.
Well,
if you go to
okay.
Thurrott.com.
No, sorry. What that is about 50 models that all have low single digit.
It's like no name.
It's a bunch of them. Yeah.
Okay. Lumia 535.
So when you look at this list, here's what sticks out for me. And actually, there's a number of indications here that are just kind of highlight how poorly things have gone in the recent year or two. Of the top 10 devices, 2 of them are the recent flagships, but they're both single digit share.
Not good.
So that's not so good.
The 950 and which one?
The 950 XL.
XL, yeah.
The other thing is they're all Lumias, like every single one of them.
Yeah.
And in fact, even though you don't see it in that chart, if you encapsulate the other part of that, 99% of all Windows 10 mobile devices in the world are Microsoft devices, Lumia devices. That's not what Microsoft wants. I know that sounds great for Microsoft, but actually what they want is a healthy ecosystem, blah, 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 and that has not happened. The other thing is, when you look at the phones that are not those new Lumia 950s, not all, but most of them are mid to low-end devices. The 535 is a great example. 640, 550 is a really low-end device. 640 XL is just a big version of 640. The 930 is a flagship. That was a big one, or a powerful phone. And that's it. The rest of them are all low-end, mid-range phones.
That just shows that it's I'm assuming majority of this is emerging markets and.
Windows Phone. Well, it's funny. Like the 830, the 730, the 930, the 640, 640 XL, and the 535, and the 550 actually. Basically all of them. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a 650 in there. Actually, all 3 of the new phones are in there. There's a 650. I'm sorry, I skipped over that. They were popular in Europe, relatively speaking, and that's about it. Yeah. So, emerging markets in Europe. It's pretty much, it's the whole thing has come to a screeching halt. Unfortunately, this data kind of backs that up.
So the PC side, I don't know if you want to go through that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, sure.
HP is leading Windows 10 devices. So
by
not
a
surprised.
huge amount, right? Yeah. By almost 3 times.
Are you surprised by that? Or
yeah, I am. I don't know what to account that to, but
I guess people are buying HPs.
Well, so remember, this is not just people buying computers, but people upgrading to Windows 10, right? These are PCs running Windows 10. So in the wider world, Hewlett-Packard is not outselling Dell over 2-to-1. It's not outselling Lenovo over 2-to-1. So what's going on here? For some reason, HP, either by doing a better job than the other PC makers or just the makeup of their customer base, whatever it is, those people have upgraded to Windows 10 in much bigger numbers.
I was actually baffled by this, and I'm trying to understand why HP, by 2-to-1, why HP users are upgrading. What would HP have done to kind of entice them to upgrade? I don't understand what they could possibly do that maybe Lenovo or Asus cannot or is not doing.
Yeah, HP, like Lenovo and Dell, actually, they have software that they put on their PCs that helps you get drivers and whatever. And it's possible they're just being more aggressive about moving people to Windows 10. But I don't know. It's funny. A lot of the computers I use are HPs and Lenovo's, and I'm having a hard time coming up with a good reason why the HP number should be so big.
Yeah.
I can tell you that roughly speaking, if you look at actual market share for PCs these days, Lenovo is number one worldwide. HP's number two. HP's number one in the United States. Lenovo's number two.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's hard to say, but I do think the Microsoft stat here is interesting because you don't really see Microsoft listed in a lot of these kind of charts because they're usually so far down the list you don't get to see them. But now you can kind of see where they fall. And so I think they're in the 7th place out of 10. They have 3% market share. Microsoft's most recent 2 devices are Windows 10 based. So the other ones, the rest of that would come from upgrades.
Yeah.
But I think that gives you an interesting kind of perspective of where Microsoft sits in the market. And so
it's
3% of the
very
market.
Yeah.
Yeah. But remember, they only sell premium computers. And so, HP, Dell, Lenovo are all going after that part of the market as well because, numbers are important, but margins are important and profits are important. And you can have a much higher profit on an expensive device.
I'll tell you though, Paul, I could see Microsoft hitting, almost double digits with their market share in the coming years.
Yeah,
because
Yep.
this is obviously it's a premium market, but I mean, look at Samsung really. I guess does Samsung make premium? I mean, Sony does, right? Sony's are premiums, but
Samsung's are too.
I guess Samsung's are also. MSI, I don't know what they're putting out as far as a laptop goes, but Toshiba's only 5, almost 6%. So Microsoft could overtake Toshiba and possibly Acer very soon.
I think their goal has to be Apple because obviously with Surface, the
10%.
company they're competing with is Apple. That's where 10% is the goal. It should be double digit. By the way, I used to talk that way about Windows Phone. Anyway, that is the goal.
And then Surface devices.
Yeah, and so there's interesting stuff here too, right? So Surface Pro 3 eked out a first place win. It's actually pretty close, but 33% on Surface Pro 3, 31% on Surface Pro 4, brand new device. So that one's obviously going gangbusters. Surface Pro 4 only sells with Windows 10. So Surface Pro 3 are just people who are upgraded. So that's amazing. It suggests that the wider market for Surface Pro 3 is probably a lot bigger than what we're seeing here. But the interesting thing here is Surface Book, right? So the smallest Windows 10 capable Surface model is the newest one, Surface Book. It's a really high-end computer. Those machines, I want to say they start at $1,400, $1,500, and you could spend over $3,000 on a Surface Book. 9 to 1, I think that's a 9 to 1 advantage. What do I got? No, almost a 10, 9 to 1 advantage, whatever it is, over Surface Pro 4. The funny thing there, Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book internally are exactly the same computer.
Yeah.
Surface Pro 4 has a smaller screen. It's a more of a tablet form factor rather than a laptop, and it cannot be had with a dedicated GPU like you can get on the Surface Book, which is part of the thing that makes it more expensive. But other than that, identical architecture, identical machines. The firmware updates that come out are largely identical across the 2 devices. Surface Pro 4 is not as expensive. It's outselling the Surface Book almost 10 to 1. I think it's 9 to 1. I think is the actual figure.
Very interesting.
Yeah, really interesting.
It's you never know how people are upgrading and why they're upgrading. By the way, we're 1 month away.
I know.
Guys, if you're going to do your update and you want a free upgrade, do it now. Because you're going to be very upset later on if you want to buy it.
By the way, there was a change that was announced this week. I haven't looked at it yet. That might be relevant for people who are thinking about the upgrade. Some people may want to take advantage of the free upgrade, but they actually don't want to use Windows 10 yet. One of the things you can do, when we've talked about, is you could just maybe dual boot on the same computer, install Windows 10, get it activated, and then you'll be okay down the road. But as I've raised this issue where sometimes people go back to reinstall Windows from scratch, it doesn't work. The activation doesn't work, even though they previously activated. Now, obviously, if that happens after the free upgrade expires, you're kind of screwed because then you'll have to pay $120 or $200
Go to Windows 10
to actually pay, to get it. So what Microsoft did was they released, this is not even what it's called. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. There's a capability in the latest build of Windows 10 now where you can associate an activation with your Microsoft account.
Okay.
And this should preserve that thing because you'll actually have that product key now. and when it comes time to install the system later, you'll have it.
Okay, so
yeah.
Explain to me how this would work. So let's say I have right now.
I haven't tried it yet. This is gonna be off the top of my head. Right?
I have.
Well, consider to. Let's tell you how it works today first.
Yeah.
So you have a computer.
Yeah.
And you upgrade it to Windows 10.
Yeah.
And
free
it
upgrade,
activates.
Yeah. And it activates. Yeah.
Right. What happened was, or what happens there behind the scenes is that they've never really said where this stuff is, but what Microsoft does is somewhere in the cloud, they store your machine ID along with a little, it's like a checksum or it's an OK sign. Like, in other words, when this machine ID hits our activation servers in the future, they get Windows 10.
Yeah.
Right. It must identify what version of Windows 10, Pro or Home or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a few other things, but that's basically what it is. It's a one-to-one correlation between the PC and your ability to get Windows 10 in the future.
Okay.
Okay. Fine. The problem with it, well, I should say the pros and the cons here are, if you sell or give away that computer, the license for Windows 10 goes with the computer, of course. It's part of the, it's tied to the computer. But I've witnessed this during the beta, and Microsoft is actually not during the beta, during the previous year, because it's not in beta. But over the previous year, Microsoft has started making changes to the way licensing works with Windows 10 to ease this kind of problem. Because sometimes you go back to a machine that you've already activated, you do a clean install of Windows 10, it does the activation check, looks for the machine ID, doesn't find it, and says, "Nope, sorry, you're not activated."
Yeah.
And wow, what happens then? Okay, so there's various things you can do to fix that. Right. Going forward, what they're going to, okay.
Here's my question here, okay?
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense for, OEM copies, pre-built machines, and you activate and it's all done. So now let's say I've actually bought Windows 7. Let's say I have a family plan with 5 activations on Windows 7.
Yep.
How would it know, because if you associate it to a machine and not just, you see what I mean?
Like you're introducing an additional complexity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I'm asking. Yeah. Is it smart enough?
No, it's not. So the thing I described is not for a retail version of Windows 7 or Windows 8.
It's for OEM versions. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
pre-built.
The reason I say that is one of the I talked about vaguely. Microsoft did things over the past year to make this stuff easier. This is one of the things they did to make it easier. Today, if Windows doesn't activate, you can put in a Windows 7 key, you can put in a Windows 8.1 key, and it will just activate against the Windows 7 or Windows 8.1 key.
Yeah.
So it'll just work. That's neat.
Yeah.
But what happens on July 29th?
Yeah.
Think about this. It's a year from now. Doesn't activate. But you have the key, like you said, you bought it. You have a family pack or you bought it, an individual copy, doesn't matter. Okay, I'll just put in my Windows 7 product key. Will that work a year from now?
I don't know.
Right. My answer is, and this is not based on something Microsoft has told me, it's just based on common sense, is no, it won't work. Here's why. The free upgrade's over. You have Windows 7. You don't qualify for a free upgrade anymore.
Yeah.
That product key should not work after July 29th. So that does, in other words, what I'm saying is the situation that we have today where they put a machine ID in the cloud does not solve this problem.
No.
So you having a product key for Windows 7 is not going to help at all after July 29th.
Yeah, so like let's say I have, 5 activations on this license, on this Windows 7 family plan. And
if you don't use them by July 29th,
you have to use all of them. All those machines have to be updated. You can't use it on one and then go to do another one 2 months from now and activate.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Those things will always be good for Windows 7, obviously.
Yeah, but not for Windows.
That's not like they break, but being able to go to Windows 10 for free stops.
So it's not an activation per license; it's an activation per machine with the license.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
which is weird. I mean, that's a weird way to do it.
It is. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So the thing that's changing is they're adding the ability for you to save this to OneDrive with your Microsoft account, and they're going to associate, let's say, 3 things, because it's the mechanism isn't entirely clear yet. Like I said, I need to really investigate this because this stuff is core to what I do. I'm really, really curious to see how they're going to handle this. But let's just say, again, off the top of my head, your Microsoft account, good, your machine ID, fine, your computer, and a product key, a Windows 10 product key. Right? 3 things together. Those things together will always work on that machine. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what's happening to the old system if it goes away, but like what happens if you give away that computer, sell it? So I give you my computer. You blow away Windows 10. You do a clean install of Windows 10. You go to activate it. What happens? It should activate, right?
It should.
It should, because that thing is already like 2 out of 3 should work. If you don't have the Microsoft account, it should still kind of work, right?
Yeah.
If nobody knows this, but as one of the few Windows Phone fans on earth, this system is actually already in place on Windows Phone. So, for example, if you go to blow away certain Windows Phone models, you could actually get to a situation where it boots up and says, you need to type in the password for your Microsoft account before anyone else can install Windows on this phone, right? So maybe it's that kind of a system where they'll build something into it where you can say, hey, I'm selling or giving this thing away. It's okay. Here's my password one time to get it through the process, and now it's theirs.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
This is a little.
They just
sticky.
announced it.
Yeah,
it's a mess. It is a mess.
You know, I thought the whole activation thing was a disaster with the upgrades. Now imagine when this thing, because people always want what they can't have, right? So now it's going to come time, you know, a month from now, everybody's going to freak out and want to do the upgrade, and they're either going to do it at the last minute, or they're just going to be really pissed off that it's saying, hey, it's $100 and something for an upgrade. They're going to say, I thought it was free.
Right. Since we went down this rabbit hole, maybe I'll throw in an additional thing that will be interesting to people. One of the other issues we've had on Windows since activation appeared in, I guess, Windows XP is this notion of, well, I'm an enthusiast or something happened to my computer and I upgraded my computer. I replaced the hard drive, I replaced the graphics card, I replaced a motherboard, whatever it is. So Microsoft has never told us the secret stew they use to determine activation, but basically it's a combination of hardware components. They generate some kind of a number that is the collection of those things. So your motherboard is a number, your graphics card, your hard drive, your CPU, all this stuff. And some of the numbers have more heavily than others. So for example, replacing a hard drive should never trigger a reactivation. It's not a big deal. Replacing the CPU or the motherboard, though, you know, you might make the argument that's a completely different computer. I mean, from an activation perspective, that doesn't match up with this product key, right? It's a different computer. So what happened, what has always happened, and I almost said the past, but the whole history of this, the way that works is you try electronic activation, you pray to God it works, you cross your finger, you sacrifice the chicken, whatever your gods allow, and Microsoft either says yes or no. No, typically, right? If it's a big hardware change. In that case, you have to call Microsoft on the phone and you have to explain them what you did. And supposedly they will always say, okay, sure, that's fine. We get it. And they'll activate it for your over the phone. And then subsequent activations will work because now it's been activated.
Yeah.
People hate doing that, right? And they should hate doing that. And there are random occurrences where the person on the other end of the phone says, you know what, I'm sorry. We can't do that for you. And you get some hard feelings in there. And so what they're introducing with the anniversary update that's coming out this summer is something called the activation troubleshooter. And so you clean install Windows 10, you go to activate, it says no, and then you can go through a troubleshooter. Yeah. And I think what this thing is going to do, and again, I haven't been able to use it yet because they just came out with it, and it's just something we need to try this in different hardware, et cetera, et cetera. I believe the point of this is to automate that phone call thing that you were doing before. In other words, we don't need to engage a human being.
Have you ever spoken to a human being? Because I've got it once.
Yes, I've done this.
Okay,
yeah,
so
at least twice.
I've only gotten it once, but most of the time it's that weird letter number combo where you put in the letters and it gives you a number combo and it says, have you had how many devices is this activated on? You say 0, none, I don't know, and they go,
sure,
valid, verified, and it gives you a number.
Yeah,
I've gotten a person once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've done it at least twice, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So think about it this way. In other words, what's the person on the other end of the phone really doing, right? You know, they probably have a view into the database where this information is. They can tell from the number of the machine, what's going on. They can see what's different, that kind of stuff. Why not automate this, right? A web service, whatever it is, a cloud service or whatever, could examine the components in your computer, compare it to the hash or the value or whatever they're generating from before, and can determine that, you've changed the motherboard. Everything that is exactly the same except for the motherboard. It's exactly what you said it was. In other words, you go through the troubleshooter, it will probably say, what did you change? I changed the motherboard. This thing can go, zoop, yep, and you're in.
Yeah.
And now it will only activate on this new configuration. It's perfect. Sorry. It's not perfect. It's better than it was before. This is what they should have done all along. This is the right way to approach this. Right?
Yeah.
I think.
Very interesting. It's a very, very. I hope everything works out for them.
I know. Well, listen.
We're gonna hear. I'm gonna get the complaints. You're gonna get the complaints, and we're gonna complain.
There's stuff I don't know yet. I mean, in each of these things, I haven't tried them yet, so I'm very curious to see how this stuff works. But since Windows XP, which came out in 2001, so 15 years now, we've been dealing with activation of Windows. It has been a constant cluster, and every version they changed it a little bit. This version they changed it a lot, and they've been changing it ever since Windows 10 came out. So part of that's because of the free deal. So that obviously that throws another wrench into things. Fascinated to see how this is going to work, but I have a good feeling that they're trying to do the right thing. Let's put it that way, and I think they'll get there eventually. There'll be people get burned in the short term, but they'll get it right.
Oh boy.
Yep, I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I can't see Microsoft not saying like, "Hey, we're extending this by a month," or they're going to do, every now and then they're going to do a special 1 month special where it's free upgrades. And then people are going to complain that they had to buy it,
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm curious on what happens, what Microsoft's response is in a month for this. Paul.
I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
We're out of time.
Yep.
But guys, if you're watching live, stay tuned. We're going to be doing our bonus show here. And the topic today of the bonus show is something interesting. We kind of touched on this, but I want to talk about video and voice chat and how it's evolved over the years and how we started using video and voice chat years ago and how it's kind of changed. Net meeting comes to mind. Paul, did you use Net meeting?
I did.
Okay, and it was a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, Net meeting, speaking of Windows XP, it was quite a long time ago, but yeah, sure. I mean, we did. I mean, I moved along to every Microsoft thing. I used some some third-party stuff.
So I want to talk about that and different voice services and how we, started using it. If you're watching this live, stay tuned and watch it. If not, it is available on Patreon. Patreon.com/whatthetech is a site. Fund us, and you get access to these bonus shows that we do each and every week. Paul, before we wrap up, you guys are doing something interesting on Thurrott.com. You're going to have a premium version of Thurrott.com. I don't know if you want to touch on this and tell us what we're going to be getting. Alpha members.
Yeah.
Thurrott Premium. Yeah. It's coming this fall.
Well, yeah, right. So we kind of pre-announced. So people who sign up now can do so more cheaply for the first year. But basically, this is something, this is something that was an issue at my old job. It's been an issue here. In order to make money on the web now, you have to really spam your site with ads. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I get complaints about the ads every single day, and it's miserable. And we try to think, we've been trying to think of ways to not to be like that, and listen, guys, I mean this seriously. If I won the lottery and had $1 billion, I would just take the ads off this site and I would just do what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I'd love to be able to do that. But it's a little more complicated than that.
This is how we make money. Yeah. Right now.
Yeah, it's not good. And so we've been working on this for a year, literally. In fact, we had the first meetings about this July of last year. Brad coincidentally was in New York the week that we had those meetings. He wasn't part of them, but we saw him there. That's why he came on board. He met George, my boss, and my partner, and that happened over August, September. And then, last year, I come to New York all the time, right? Yeah. I mean, 50% of the time we're having meetings about this stuff, trying to get this off the ground. And so, the site as it stands now is going to continue the way it is. It will be basically exactly the same, but we're going to add premium features for people who want to or can pay for a subscription, which is not expensive.
You're not removing anything. It's not like...
I think we're going to change a few things. So, for example... I write this post not quite every day, but I stupidly called it Thurrott Daily, which is the name of our newsletter as well. But it's a way to kind of microblog about stuff that's going on around the web. That's going to go away and become what it always was supposed to be, which is a separate microblog that will be only available for premium members. So that might be the one thing that's kind of going away. But
But it's not going to be like the New York Times where you read 3 articles and it shuts everything down. And, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? Actually, I didn't put this into the announcement, but the plan, even though I didn't actually mention this, is that non-premium members should be able to access some number of premium articles each month or something, like some small number. But so there'll be like longer analysis articles that only appear for premium members, basically an ad-free experience, obviously. Brad and I are doing a very short podcast each afternoon where we just kind of chit-chat and talk about what's going on. We're going to start doing video reviews. We're formalizing a process for hardware reviews. Right now if you think about, it's a couple of things actually. There's like a device just came into the home. I've got pictures of it. Here are my first impressions. Then here's my full review. What does that full review look like? And then the video review, which is a kind of a subset of the written review, but obviously in video form. We're going to have premium forums and comments, and quarterly we're going to be doing these health and tech reports. So
I'm signing
we're
up.
just trying to throw away.
I'm signing up.
Throw together a set of things that makes sense, right? And is hopefully will be valuable to people. Anytime I write anything like this, I very begrudgingly write this post that explains this. I hate doing this. I hate asking people for anything. I don't want to do that. Obviously, there's a business behind all this stuff. And whatever, it's going to happen. But it's funny, some people are great. I mean, the internet is this cauldron of everything that's right and wrong with the world. Some people are just wonderful. They're like, listen, I've been reading your stuff for 20 years. I love what you do. I appreciate what you're trying to achieve. This is not a lot of money. I don't mind.
And then you get other people that tell you to go get a real job.
Oh, I have other people. They're way worse than that. They're just, it makes me sad that there are people that awful, online. Like it's unbelievable. So great. you know? So anyway, I don't like doing this. I mean, I wish I didn't have to do this. I wish we could have a few ads and it made sense and it made all the money and we'd be in good shape. I wish that's the way the world worked, but it doesn't. And, we're doing fine as it is, but we want it to be better than fine. And we want it to be better.
You want to expand, you want to grow, you want to do more stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think over time, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say over time, I'd like to, in the sense of expanding it, I mean, my name's on it, but really it's not about me. It's also about bringing in people that, make sense, that reach a certain quality bar. Brad's been fantastic. It's awesome having Raphael on board, and I want to bring in more people. It's hard to find those people, but, we are looking at that. We're thinking about it, and things are going to, hopefully just keep getting better and better. So
I'm very, very happy about this. I think it's going to do phenomenal. Thurrott.com, guys. Go there. Sign up. Thurrott Premium live this fall. So, and there's a great deal right now. It is only $42. It's 35% off right now if you go and sign up. Normally it's going to be $64, but it's $42 for the year. It's an annual membership. Go there right now. Thurrott.com. Paul, I'll see you in a couple of minutes for the bonus show. Guys, follow us on Twitter or everywhere podcasts are available. Subscribe to us. And we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye for now.